If you've ever found yourself in a situation where you are in a standoff with a student over something as simple as a pencil or a Chromebook, trust me, you are not alone. In fact, I've been there myself. But after years of working behavior, I have found a better way that won't leave you distressed or doubting yourself. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Rachel from the Behavior Check-In. I'm a behavior specialist and special education teacher in California, and I help teachers with behavior questions and problems and trauma-informed strategies. And in today's video, we are going to talk about how to avoid power struggles. And this is a very, very common pitfall that all educators of all experience levels can get trapped and fall into. I want to show you how to avoid power struggles and what you can do to stop it in its tracks so that you're able to continue teaching. So first, you need to know what a power struggle looks like. They are not all the same, but it's really important to know that power struggles are not always loud. They are not always forceful. They're not always these major giant behaviors. Power struggles can be those silent, defiant moments where a child just puts their head on the desk and they're refusing to do anything. And this can be frustrating as a teacher because we want to have our students fully engaged in the class and participating, and that behavior can look like it's rude. And we don't want that, and that can be very frustrating for us as teachers. Power struggles can also be initiated as the little side eye or the whatever, or the calling you brah, or whatever it comes across as disrespectful. But here's the big thing, the big takeaway. The key sign to a power struggle is that you are starting to feel dysregulated. You are starting to feel like you are not a good teacher, like you're doubting yourself. You're starting to feel hot and frustrated, and you just want it to be over. That is the key sign of a power struggle, is that you're starting to get dysregulated. And I think it's very important that we recognize that in ourselves first, so we know how to handle it. So why is it important for us to know how we're feeling when we're getting into a power struggle? I mean, the kid's egging us on, right? And that can be frustrating, but it's important for us to know because kids who are often under chronic stress live in fight or flight. And our students that tend to engage in these power struggles with us are not regulated. They're not at their baseline. And when we become escalated, they become escalated. And it goes from something that maybe was just over a pencil or a Chromebook that turns into desks flipping or people even getting seriously hurt. And we don't want to go there. At the very minimal, we're having loss of instructional time and we're damaging the relationship with our students and students in the classroom. So we need to have an effective strategy. I have found one thing that's really helpful is to have some power phrases or some go-to one-liners when a student is trying to get you or bait you into a power struggle. Here are some scripts and phrases that I like to use when it's starting to come to that and I feel like a student is trying to bait me into a power struggle. One thing you can say is, we don't have to like the rule. We may not even always agree with the rule, but we have to be respectful to each other. My absolute favorite one is, okay, I can see you're frustrated. I'm going to give you a minute and I will come back and check on you. This is a really good one because it acknowledges the child's feelings and it also gives the child a moment to kind of come down from whatever they're feeling, and it also gives you a moment to come down from whatever you're feeling. One of my favorite ones to use because it has empathy involved and shows the student that you genuinely care, and this will help build that relationship, and that is, we can solve this together when you're ready. I'm here to help you. Now they may respond back with, I don't want your help, and that's when you can go to, it's okay, I'll give you a little bit of time and we can come back and address this when you're ready. The big thing about the one-liner, it doesn't mean that you're giving up all control and all authority and all power and you're just being a doormat and letting everything just go to the wayside. That's not at all what they're there for. They're for you to defuse, but also acknowledge where the student's coming from and come back and address it when you are both regulated. You are still holding the boundary with the student, but you are doing it with empathy and you're doing it in a co-regulation way. That means you're not getting escalated and then making them escalated. If you'd like a free copy of my favorite one-liners that you can use just to kind of keep on hand for you or to share with your colleagues, you can get them below in my Teachers Pay Teacher store at this link, and you can have it as a great printout just as a resource to keep near you when you're teaching, or like I said, share with anybody in professional development or any teachers you know who might benefit from this. We want to set the stage before the struggle begins. This means that we want to build the relationship with the student so that we have that to fall back on. The best way to avoid a power struggle is to build the connection before the correction. That doesn't mean that you're becoming their best friend or that you're being a doormat or that you're gonna have to pull out all these bells and whistles to be the cool teacher. This is a very simple strategy. It's about figuring out how they're feeling and what they need, meeting them where they are. You can do this through morning check-ins, emotional check-ins to see how they're doing. So you can check in on students individually and seeing what needs that they have. This is a great way for them to be seen, heard, and have their feelings validated. You would be surprised remembering one or two little things that a student is really into, how much that means to them. A lot of times these kids don't feel seen, especially if they have interests that are not like typical of their peers or very unique to them, very niche. They feel very seen when you take time to get to know things about their interest and ask them questions about the interest and get them talking about things that they love. This builds trust. I have done this with students in the past. I was not a big Batman or Lego fan, but I learned a lot about Batman and Lego so that I could build that relationship with the student. Same with Pokemon. I had to do a lot of research on what Pokemon was about because that's not something that I'm naturally interested in. And I wasn't being fake. I wanted to have background knowledge so I could participate in a discussion with that student. But they really loved it because they knew that, Miss Irwin wasn't naturally into that kind of stuff. They could see the things around my room and they knew that me taking interest in something that they loved was me taking interest in them. Staying consistent with rules and expectations and routines. This means that, if you told the student if they had this goal expectation for their behavior that day and they were testing boundaries all day and they didn't make it, that you hold them to it. Now you can still do that with empathy and with teaching. We're not going to be mean or nasty about, hey, you didn't make your reward or your goal for the day, but we're going to talk about what maybe they did that prevented them and how they can make it the next day. We can even have conversations before it gets to that point where they've completely derailed their day, and we could talk to them earlier in the day and say, hey, we're kind of struggling this morning. If we want to be able to make our goal at the end of the day, that you're going to need to adjust some things. We're going to need to turn our day around. How can we turn our day around? Having that conversation with them. What do they think that they could do to turn their day around to make it better so that they could reach their goal? Get their buy-in. This is so beneficial. When I do my data discussions with my students, it's never punitive. It really is used as a reflection tool and an opportunity for them to self-correct, tell me what they need to self-correct, and me supporting and guiding them. Honestly, if a student is struggling, but they recognize that they need to turn it around, they give me suggestions on what they need to do, they apologize or whatever, and then they follow through and they do those things, you better believe they're going to earn the reward because that's really hard to do, and they showed me a lot of growth and mastery of a certain skill, and they deserve to celebrate that. Now, that's not giving a student a free ride because we're using it as a teaching tool. But when we get really fixated on every single rule and how everything has to be by the book, and we are not flexible in our thinking, and we are not having those growth mindset conversations, and we're not modeling that growth mindset by working with them, we're not teaching them the number one social skill that they need, which is how to collaborate and work with others and problem solve. That's more than one social skill, that's multiple, but that's the overarching skill that they need, is how to collaborate and work with others. And that's what we are really focusing on at the end of the day to teach these students how to do. Speaking of rules, it is so important to explain to students why the rule exists and the reason behind the rule. It may seem obvious and very innate to us as adults why we have a rule, but kids, they're still young. They're still new to this earth. They may have only been on this earth 5, 6, 7 years, and they don't know all the things that we know as an adult. And it's really important to share with them why we have that rule, why we do it for safety or to be kind to others, or because, if we don't, things are going to be really chaotic and stressful. Kids appreciate that. And honestly, I have found every time I have done this and we've really talked about the rule and how it impacts people, I have seen major changes in kids accepting that rule and then sometimes being my biggest rule enforcer. All of these things are tiny things, but with consistency, they really can lead to big change. Not to mention, they help your students and yourself all feel safer in the classroom. So are you wanting help learning how to set all of this up? If you're interested in any of my behavior trackers, I will have them linked below in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. I also have them linked in my Pillar store. I have plenty of other videos on this channel that you can watch for free and learning different strategies on what you can do. You don't have to buy any of the things that I promote for you. They're just there if you would like them as resources to help you. You can always let me know in the comments below anything that you have questions about. If you need more individualized support, you can also go into my Pillar store and you can book an appointment with me. I do hour sessions and we can talk about what your particular needs are, what would be helpful to you, and I can give you a lot more targeted instruction on certain things that would relate to your individual teaching situation. So let's review. If you want fewer power struggles, number 1, learn when your body is shifting into control mode. 2, use neutral co-regulating language. 3, build connection before you need to correct the behavior. Really, you don't need a magic script, you just need a strategy and a system that works for you even on the hard days. If this video helped you, I would like you to like, subscribe, and share to anybody else who could benefit from this. That really supports my channel. Make sure you check out my resources below for anything that I mentioned that you might find helpful. And as always, thank you, and I will catch you in the next one.